Tom Abbate, and today I'm going to talk to you about cyber crimes. Now, this is a very broad section of crimes that can cover multiple different acts and violations of the law. The only key component of all of the crimes is that the defendant had to have used a computer or a computer network in order to effectuate the crime. So, for instance, it's all found under Chapter 33 of the Texas Penal Code, and it covers a broad range of things from interfering with someone else's access to their own computer network. This can cover directly hacking in and tampering with the data thereon, or instances of ransomware. This one's been occurring a little bit more frequently. In fact, it happened to the Texas Court of Appeals website this year, and this is where a company, a group will hack into the website and essentially lock the owner out. And then they'll send a message saying that if you want access to your database, network, computer, whatever it may be, you need to send us X amount of dollars. Now, with the majority of these crimes, especially when they're dealing with financial issues or hacking in, the level of the offense is going to be dependent upon the damages that were caused or the amount that was stolen. For instance, under the interfering with a network statute or computer access, depending on how much the victim suffered is going to depend on whether or not, or is going to determine whether or not this is a misdemeanor or a felony. Now, other crimes that are covered are really more of sexual crimes. They're just crimes that were effectuated with the use of a computer. So, for instance, online solicitation of a minor is an instance where an individual contacts someone that they know to be a minor online or believe to be a minor online and set up a meeting for the purposes of having sex with that minor. This is a separate crime from the actual sexual assault. It's using the computer to effectuate that interaction. Also, in this grouping, although it's not listed in Chapter 33, is going to be instances of child pornography. We consider these as cyber crimes mostly because the way they are found, investigated, and prosecuted is all going to be very based on the technology, very much based on the technology that the individual possessed. For instance, one of the ways that child pornography is routinely uncovered is law enforcement will get on a file sharing program, LimeWire, Pirate Bay, any of these programs that are available, and they will look for particular images of known child pornography. Every computer image has what's referred to as a hash number, which is a unique number that identifies a specific image. Think about it as like a VIN number on your car, or a serial number on, the serial number on the computer itself. And so this will, when they find that, they will then search and see who's downloading this, who's got this available to share, and then they will start backtracking from there where that person is, using the computer's registration number, the IP address, as well as the IP address of, say, the modem, anything that linked in. A lot of people try to use this hardware that will create essentially random IP addresses or multiple IP addresses by pinging it across several different places to kind of hide where they're at. Law enforcement will probably be able to track that back if they spend enough time on it. And then once they figure out which computer they'll go get their search warrant, and then they'll go and collect that computer and pull everything off of that computer. And this goes back to our earlier video on search warrants. It's got a lot of the same overlap with the cell phone, which I'm not going to necessarily go into here, but essentially law enforcement's going to need 2 warrants. One to get the physical computer itself, and one to actually access the data on it. And so, it's very important, especially with child pornography crimes, that those warrants are reviewed, and whether or not the law enforcement violated the Fourth Amendment search and seizure rights. As far as knowledge on child pornography, you're not going to really get anywhere with that. I mean, it's a strict liability kind of offense. It's more like possession of narcotics, in the sense that if you possess it, you've violated the law. You don't necessarily have to have known that what you were looking at was a image of child pornography. Now, with regard to the other grouping, which is going to be a lot of the fraud, hacking in to steal actual money, like say out of a bank account or things like that, there is going to be some overlap between the state and the federal jurisdictions, but the federal is going to carry a lot of that forward. If you hack into a bank and pull a bunch of money out of several accounts and funnel it into your own, that's probably going to be a federal matter as opposed to a state matter. The states largely do have laws to cover that, but usually they don't get to prosecute it because the federal government's going to step in, and state court doesn't really have any jurisdiction over a defendant unless they can get a hold of them and present them in that court, and the feds typically don't let anyone go until they're completely done with them. So as far as those go, you're going to have to look at the federal wire transfer statutes and things like that, and you're going to really need to have someone that's very knowledgeable on dealing with those crimes in federal court. Whereas with the state matters, you're going to need more of a general understanding of the state law and how it works. And the final grouping that's in here is going to be tampering with voting machines. A lot of voting has gone into a more electronic format. You don't go in there and just push a little hole through a piece of paper anymore. You've usually got a voting machine. A lot of states have started to enact laws, or they have laws for dealing with hacking into those machines. These ones are a little bit different in the sense that you're not necessarily stealing anything, and you're not dealing with a company. You are essentially affecting government property at that point. And these are going to carry severe penalties just simply because you are interfering with the voting system. And so, keep in mind that cybercrimes basically covers any crime that you can commit with a computer. And so it's very important that you hire someone that understands the different types of crimes, the groupings, what they all entail, as well as all of the different punishment ranges, because it gets very specific, at least with regard to the financial crimes, as to what level of offense it is based on what exactly was done.